The scalding coffee hit Marcus's face before he even saw it coming. 1 second he was standing beside his motorcycle at the gas station. The next he was clutching his burning skin, coffee dripping down his leather jacket. "Watch where you're going, you piece of trash." Victor Caldwell stood beside his black Mercedes, empty cup still in his hand, not a trace of remorse on his face. "Your filthy bike is blocking my way." Marcus blinked through the pane, his vision blurred. The coffee wasn't just hot, it was boiling. His cheek felt like it was on fire. "You threw coffee at me." "I didn't throw it. You were in my way." Victor adjusted his expensive watch, looking Marcus up and down with disgust. "People like you think you own the road with your loud bikes and your pathetic existence." Before we continue, let us know in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Marcus wiped his face with his sleeve, trying to control his anger. His skin was already turning red, blistering in spots. Other people at the gas station had stopped to stare, but nobody said anything. Volvo's car probably cost more than most of them made in 5 years. "You need to apologize," Marcus said quietly, his jaw tight. Victor laughed. "Apologize? To you?" He pulled out his wallet, threw a $20 bill on the ground. "There, buy yourself some ointment. Now move your junk before I call the police, and tell them you're harassing me." Marcus looked at the money on the ground, then back at Victor. Something in his expression made Victor's smile falter for just a second. "You're going to regret this," Marcus said, his voice steady, despite the pain. "Is that a threat?" Victor pulled out his phone. "I have lawyers who eat people like you for breakfast. Touch me, and you'll spend the next 10 years in prison." Marcus didn't move. He just stood there, water from his eyes mixing with the coffee stains, staring at Victor with an intensity that made the other man uncomfortable. "What are you looking at?" Victor snapped, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Marcus smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. "You'll see, 20 minutes. That's all it's going to take." Victor drove away from the gas station, checking his rearview mirror 3 times. The biker was still standing there, making a phone call. Something about the man's calm demeanor bothered him, but Victor ricked it off. He dealt with worse threats from actual important people. His phone rang. It was Richard, his lawyer. "Victor, we have a problem." Richard's voice was tense. "That commercial property deal, the one on 5th Street. What about it? We're closing next week. The owner just pulled out. Completely. Says he's no longer interested in selling, regardless of price." Victor's grip tightened on the steering wheel. That property was crucial. He'd already promised investors they'd break ground within a month. That's breach of contract. Sue him. "There's no contract yet. We were in verbal negotiations, and Victor, there's more. The bank called about your construction loan for the Riverside project. They want to review the terms. They're talking about increasing the interest rate or possibly pulling funding altogether." "What? Why?" "They wouldn't say, just that some new information came to their attention about risk factors." Victor felt a knot forming in his stomach. 2 problems in 5 minutes. That was unusual. But coincidences happened in business. "Handle it, Richard. That's what I pay you for." He hung up and headed to his office downtown. But when he arrived, his assistant Jennifer looked worried. "Mr. Caldwell," the mayor's office called. "They're canceling your meeting next week." No explanation, they just said the mayor's schedule changed. "The mayor personally requested that meeting 2 weeks ago." Victor's voice rose. "What's going on?" Jennifer shook her head, and Mr. Peterson from the zoning board also called. "He said there might be some complications with your permits for the Oakwood development." Victor's phone buzzed. His accountant. Then his business partner, then another lawyer. Every call brought worse news. Contractors pulling out, investors requesting meetings to discuss concerns, a newspaper reporter asking questions about his business practices. 15 minutes had passed since the gas station. Victor's hands were shaking. This couldn't be connected to that biker. That was impossible. But the timing. His phone rang again. Unknown number. "Mr. Caldwell," a calm voice said. "I think it's time we talked." Victor didn't recognize the voice, but somehow he knew. "Who is this?" "Drive back to the gas station. We need to have a conversation." "I'm not going anywhere. Who are you?" Victor's voice cracked slightly. His computer screen showed 3 more emails, all bad news. "My name is Marcus Webb. You threw coffee in my face 17 minutes ago. Check your watch. You have 3 minutes left." The line went dead. Victor sat frozen in his chair. This was insane. Some random biker couldn't possibly have this kind of power. But his entire business empire was crumbling around him in real time. His phone kept hues with more problems, more cancellations, more disasters. He looked up Marcus Webb on his computer. The search results made his blood run cold. Marcus Webb wasn't a random biker. He was a cybersecurity consultant who'd worked with every major corporation in the state. He'd helped the FBI track down international hackers. He'd designed security systems for banks, government agencies, and Fortune 500 companies. And Victor had thrown hot coffee in his face and called him trash. Victor's hands trembled as he scrolled through article after article. Marcus had connections everywhere. He knew people in every industry, every level of government. He had access to systems most people didn't know existed. Another email popped up. His biggest investor was pulling out completely, citing ethical concerns about leadership. Victor grabbed his keys and ran to his car. He drove 15 miles over the speed limit back to the gas station, his mind racing. How was he going to fix this? What could he possibly say? When he arrived, Marcus was sitting on his motorcycle, his face still red from the burns, calmly looking at his phone. The gas station was mostly empty now. Just the two of them and a couple of wheezes inside the store. Victor got out of his car slowly. His legs felt weak. "I'm here," he said, trying to sound strong but failing. Marcus looked up. "Took you 19 minutes. I was being generous. What do you want?" Victor's voice came out as barely a whisper. "I want you to understand something," Marcus said, standing up. "You think money makes you powerful. You think you can treat people however you want because you drive a nice car and wear expensive clothes." Victor wanted to argue, but his phone kept buzzing. Each vibration was another piece of his life falling apart. "But real power," Marcus continued, "isn't about money. It's about connections, trust, relationships, things you can't buy and clearly never learned." "Please," Victor said, and he hated how desperate he sounded. "I'll apologize. I'll pay for medical bills, whatever you want." Marcus touched his burned face, wincing slightly. "You think this is about money? You could offer me everything you own, and it wouldn't heal this. Then what do you want?" Victor could feel sweat running down his back despite the cool air. "I want you to understand what you did." Marcus pulled out his phone, showed Victor the screen. It was a photo of a woman and two kids, smiling at a birthday party. "That's my sister and her children. She works as a secretary at a law firm downtown. Not a fancy job, but she's proud of it. Supports her kids alone since her husband died." Victor's stomach sank. He had a feeling he knew where this was going. Last month, she accidentally spilled some papers in the office elevator.
"You were there. You called her clumsy and stupid. Told her people like her should learn their place before working in buildings they can't afford to own."
Victor's memory was fuzzy, but it sounded like something he might have said. He said things like that often, never thinking about them twice. "She cried for 3 hours that night," Marcus said, his voice harder now. "My niece asked why Mommy was so sad. But here's the thing, Victor. My sister? She didn't have a brother who could do what I can do. She just had to swallow that humiliation and go back to work the next day. I'm sorry. Today you threw boiling coffee in my face and called me trash over a parking spot because you felt entitled to treat another human being like garbage." Marcus stepped closer. "So I made some calls, called in some favors, let certain people know about certain things." Victor's phone rang again, his bank. "Mr. Caldwell, we need to discuss your accounts. There are some irregularities we need to address immediately." "Irregularities?" Victor's voice shook. "Tax records that don't quite match up. Permits that may have been obtained through questionable means. Contracts with terms that might violate certain regulations." The banker's voice was cold. "We need you to come in tomorrow morning." Marcus watched Victor's face go pale. "I didn't fabricate anything. I just made sure the right people started looking at things they should have been looking at, all along. Funny how many problems appear when people actually pay attention." Victor felt his knees go weak. "This will ruin me." "No," Marcus said. "Your own actions are ruining you. I'm just removing the privilege that's been protecting you from consequences." Victor's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Each call was worse than the last. His business partner wanted an emergency meeting. 3 different lawyers needed to speak with him urgently. The local newspaper was running a story about his business practices. "Make it stop," Victor whispered. "Please, I'll do anything." "Anything?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Get on your knees." Victor stared at him. What? You wanted me to grovel over a parking spot. You threw coffee in my face and told me to know my place. Get on your knees and apologize properly. Victor looked around. There were people inside the gas station watching now. His Mercedes was parked right there, a symbol of everything he built, everything he was about to lose. His legs gave out, and he dropped to his knees on the concrete. It was surprisingly cold. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. Please, I'll pay whatever you want. I'll donate to charity." "You'll change," Marcus interrupted. "That's what you'll do, because here's the truth, Victor. I can end this right now. One phone call, and most of these problems go away. Not all of them. Some of what you've done has real consequences you'll have to face. But I can stop the avalanche." Hope flared in Victor's chest. "Yes, please, I'll change. I swear. But if I hear about you treating anyone, and I mean anyone, the way you treated me, or my sister, or probably countless others, this will look like a good day compared to what happens next." Marcus's voice was ice. "I have friends everywhere, in every bank, every government office, every major company. They trust me, and if I tell them you're a problem, you become a problem." Victor nodded frantically, still on his knees. People were definitely watching now, some recording on their phones. Tomorrow, this would probably be all over social media. Rich man begging on his knees at a gas station. But he didn't care anymore. His empire was crumbling, and only this man could save it. "I want you to find my sister," Marcus said. "Her name is Rebecca Webb. She works at Patterson and Associates law firm. You're going to apologize to her in person. You're going to tell her exactly what you said and why it was wrong. Yes, anything. Then I want you to set up a fund, a real fund, not some tax dodge to help people who've been harassed or mistreated in professional settings. Single parents, working class people, anyone who can't fight back against people like you." Victor nodded, tears streaming down his face now. The great Victor Caldwell, crying on his knees in a gas station parking lot. Marcus made a phone call, speaking quietly into his phone while Victor remained on his knees. After a few minutes, Victor's phone buzzed with a text. It was from his lawyer. "The bank just called. They're willing to continue negotiations." Then another text. The investor wanted to schedule a call to reconsider the situation. Marcus ended his call. "Stand up." Victor got to his feet, his knees aching. He felt 100 years old. "This is your second chance," Marcus said. "Most people don't get one. Don't waste it." "I won't. I promise." Victor wiped his face with his sleeve. "Can I ask you something? How did you do this? How did you make all of this happen so fast?" Marcus smiled slightly, though it clearly hurt his burned face. "You spend 20 years building relationships based on trust and respect. People listen when you talk. You help someone solve a problem. They remember. You treat people with dignity. They want to help you back. It's not magic, Victor. It's called being a decent human being. But the banks, the investors, the permits, I know a lot of people. I've helped a lot of organizations with their security, their problems, their growth. When I call and say, hey, you might want to look into this, they trust me enough to actually look. And when they looked at your business, they found problems. Real problems. I didn't create those, you did. I just made sure they got noticed." Victor felt sick. All those corners he'd cut, all those rules he'd bent, all those palms he'd greased, they'd always been there waiting. He'd just been lucky that nobody was paying attention. "What happens now?" Victor asked. "Now you go home. Tomorrow you start fixing things. You call Rebecca and apologize. You set up that fund I mentioned. You start treating people like human beings." Marcus paused. "And you get your face checked." That coffee was hot. For the first time, Victor really looked at Marcus's face. The burns looked painful, already blistering in places. "You need medical attention. I'm heading to urgent care after this. Been putting it off to have this conversation." Marcus got on his motorcycle. "One more thing, Victor. I'm going to be watching. Not actively, not obsessively, but my friends will tell me things. If your name comes up in a bad way, I'll know." Victor nodded. The threat was clear, and it was effective because it was real. Marcus wasn't bluffing. He'd proven that in less than 20 minutes. "Thank you," Victor said quietly, "for the second chance." Marcus started his motorcycle. The engine roared to life, loud in the quiet parking lot. "Don't thank me. Prove you deserve it." He drove away, leaving Victor standing alone beside his Mercedes, forever changed. 3 months later, Victor sat in his office, looking at very different paperwork than he used to. The fund for workplace harassment victims was growing. He'd personally apologized to Rebecca Webb, and though she'd been dulled at first, she'd eventually accepted his apology. He'd even hired her as a consultant for the fund, helping identify people who needed help. His business had survived, but barely. Several deals had fallen through. He'd had to pay fines for those permit violations and tax irregularities. His reputation had taken a serious hit, but he was rebuilding, this time, carefully, legally, ethically. The video from the gas station had gone viral, of course. Arrogant businessman gets instant karma, had millions of views. The comments were brutal, but Victor forced himself to read them. Each one was a reminder of who he'd been, and who he was trying not to be anymore. His assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Caldwell, there's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment." Victor looked up, and his stomach dropped. Marcus Webb stood in the doorway, his face mostly healed now, though there were still faint marks from the burns. "It's okay, Jennifer," Victor said, standing up. "Please, come in." Marcus entered, looking around the office. "Nice place. What can I do for you?" Victor tried to keep his voice steady. Had he messed up somehow? Was this the end of his second chance? "I heard about the fund," Marcus said. "About Rebecca's involvement. About the changes you've been making." Victor waited, not sure what to say. "I also heard about the Miller construction deal. You could have screwed them over, taken advantage of their financial problems. Instead, you restructured the contract to help them get back on their feet." "They're good people," Victor said. "They deserved better than what I was planning to do." Marcus nodded slowly. "I came here to tell you something. I'm still watching. I'll always be watching, to some degree. But I'm impressed. Real change is hard, especially when you've spent years being someone else." Victor felt something loosen in his chest. Relief, maybe. Or hope. "Don't get comfortable," Marcus added. "One mistake, and we have this conversation again. But this time, you won't get up from your knees." "I understand." Marcus turned to leave, then stopped. "That coffee, by the way. It cost me 3 weeks of pain and some permanent scarring. I hope it was worth it." "It wasn't," Victor said quickly. "It was the worst decision I've ever made. But also maybe the best thing that could have happened to me." Marcus studied him for a long moment. "Time will tell. Keep doing better, Victor. Every single day, do better." After Marcus left, Victor sat back down at his desk. His phone buzzed with a notification. The fund had just received a major donation from an anonymous source. He had a feeling he knew who it was. No. Victor looked at his reflection in the dark computer screen. He barely recognized himself anymore, and that was good. The old Victor Caldwell had needed to die that day at the gas station, on his knees, begging for mercy. The new version still had a long way to go, but at least he was trying. His coffee on his desk had gone cold. He looked at it for a long time, then dumped it in the sink. He'd never drink coffee the same way again. Every cup would be a reminder of the worst and best 20 minutes of his life. The time it took to fall from his arrogance and learn what real power actually meant. And somewhere in the city, Marcus Webb rode his motorcycle, keeping watch over a world that was just a little bit more fair because he'd been willing to make a phone call and teach one arrogant man an unforgettable tale. 6 months after that office visit, Victor's transformation was becoming more than just an act of self-preservation. It was becoming real. He'd started volunteering at a community center on weekends, something the old visit would have laughed at. He taught basic business skills to people trying to start their own small companies, people who reminded him of the person he used to look down on. One Saturday afternoon, he was helping a young woman named Maria with her business plan for a food truck when his phone rang. Unknown number. His heart jumped. After all this time, unknown numbers still made him nervous. "Hello? Victor Caldwell?" A woman's voice, professional but cold. "Yes. Who's calling?" "My name is Detective Sarah Chen. I need to speak with you about an incident that occurred 8 months ago at a gas station on Route 4. Victor's blood went cold. "What kind of incident?" "The assault. When you threw hot coffee at Marcus Webb. We've received a formal complaint, and we need you to come to the station for questioning." Victor sat down heavily. "A formal complaint? From Marcus? I can't discuss the details over the phone. Can you come in Monday morning?" After he hung up, Victor's hands were shaking. Marcus had promised him a second chance. Had he done something wrong, without realizing it? He called Richard, his lawyer, who told him not to worry, but definitely not go to the police station without representation. That weekend was the longest of Victor's life. He barely slept, replaying every interaction he'd had over the past months, trying to figure out what he'd done to break his promise to Marcus. Monday morning, he arrived at the police station with Richard. Detective Chen was waiting, along with another officer. They led them to an interrogation room, and Victor felt like he might throw up. "Mr. Caldwell," Detective Chen began, "we've been investigating a series of assault cases involving wealthy individuals attacking service workers and people they consider beneath them. Your incident with Mr. Webb fits the pattern." "I've apologized for that," Victor said quickly. "I've made amends. Marcus knows. Actually, Mr. Webb isn't the one who filed the complaint." Detective Chen slid a folder across the table. A witness came forward. Someone who was at the gas station that day and recorded the incident. "They've been following your story online and wanted to ensure there were legal consequences, not just social ones." Victor opened the folder. There were screenshots from the viral video, witness statements, medical reports about Marcus's burns. However, Detective Chen continued, "Mr. Webb has declined to press charges. In fact, he's sent us quite a detailed letter explaining the situation and vouching for your rehabilitation." Richard leaned forward. "So why are we here?" "Because I wanted to meet Mr. Caldwell in person." Detective Chen's expression was hard to read. "I wanted to see if the man in these videos is the same man sitting here today." Victor met her eyes. "He's not. I can't undo what I did, but I'm trying every day to be better. I've read about your fund, about the changes in your business practices." She paused. "I've also read the complaints we have on file about you from before the gas station incident. Did you know we had reports of you verbally abusing a parking attendant, threatening a waitress and intimidating a construction worker? None of them pressed charges because they were afraid of you." Victor felt sick. He'd known he'd been awful, but seeing it laid out officially made it worse. "I didn't know about the reports, but I'm not surprised. I was a terrible person." "Where?" Detective Chen raised an eyebrow. "I'm trying not to be anymore." She studied him for a long moment, then closed the folder. "Mr. Webb's letter was quite something. He said that destroying you further would serve no purpose, that you're doing more good now than any punishment could achieve. He asked us to close the case." "He did?" "He also said that if we ever receive another complaint about you, he'll personally ensure charges are filed for everything, including this incident. Consider this your official warning, Mr. Caldwell. The statute of limitations on assault doesn't run out for 3 years. We'll be keeping this file open." After they left the station, Victor sat in his car for 20 minutes, just breathing. Marcus had protected him again, even when Victor didn't know he needed protection, but he'd also made sure Victor understood that the sword was still hanging over his head. That evening, Victor drove to Marcus's office building. The receptionist was hesitant to let him up without an appointment, but she called up, and surprisingly Marcus agreed to see him. Marcus's office was modest, filled with computers and technical equipment. He looked up when Victor entered, his expression neutral. "I heard you had an interesting morning," Marcus said. "You saved me." Again, Victor stayed standing near the door. "The detective said you wrote a letter." "I wrote the truth. You've been doing the work. You've been changing. Throwing you in jail now would just undo all of that." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "But I also made sure you understand that this isn't forgiveness. This is a stay of execution." "I understand, and I'm grateful." "Don't be grateful to me. Be grateful to every person you don't abuse from now on. Be grateful to every employee you treat with respect, every stranger you show kindness to." Marcus's expression softened slightly. "You know what surprised me most about you, Victor?" "What?" "You actually changed. Most people in your position, they pretend. They do the minimum to avoid consequences, then slide back into old patterns. But you've been genuinely trying. Rebecca tells me you listen to her ideas for the fund, that you actually implement them, that you've started paying your own employees better, improving their benefits." Victor nodded. "It seemed like the right thing to do." "It is the right thing. It's also the smart thing. But you've never needed me to tell you about smart business decisions." Marcus stood up, walked to the window, overlooking the city. "I've been watching you like I said I would, not just watching for mistakes, but watching to see if the change was real. And I think maybe it is. Which means maybe I should stop watching so closely. Maybe I should let you prove yourself without the sword over your head." Marcus turned back to face him. "The detective's warning stands. Mess up, and there will be consequences. But I'm not going to be monitoring your every move anymore. You've earned that much trust." Victor felt emotion welling up in his chest. "Thank you. One more thing." Marcus walked over to his desk, pulled out an envelope. "This is for you." Inside was a check for $50,000, made out to Victor's harassment victim fund. I don't understand, Victor said. That's how much your companies have grown in value since you started treating people better. Better employee retention, better public image, better business relationships. You're actually making more money now than when you were cutting corners and treating people like trash. Marcus smiled slightly. Turns out, being decent is good business. Consider this my investment in making sure that lesson sticks. Victor looked at the check, then at Marcus. Why are you doing this? After everything I did to you? Because change is rare, and when it happens, it should be supported. Marcus touched his face where the scars were still faintly visible. These remind me every day that people can be cruel, but maybe they can also remind me that people can change. You're my evidence that the system can work, that consequences and second chances together can actually fix something broken. They shook hands, and Victor left feeling lighter than he had in months. As he walked to his car, his phone rang. It was Rebecca. Victor, we just received a major donation to the fund. Anonymous. But it's enough to help 50 more people this year. I know, Victor said, smiling. I just met with the donor. Really? Can you thank them for me? I already did. But Rebecca, I want you to take charge of expansion. Hire more staff, reach more people, no budget restrictions. This fund is going to be my legacy, and I want it to be yours too. After hanging up, Victor sat in his car and looked at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The man looking back was someone he was finally starting to respect, someone who'd learned the hardest lesson of his life in 20 minutes at a gas station and had spent every day since trying to earn the second chance he'd been given. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Keep going. The world needs more people who choose to be better. Victor saved the number in his contacts under conscience and drove home, ready to face another day of being the person he should have been all along.